Hi, I'm Jim Ard. I'm a senior vocational rehabilitation counselor with the Veterans Career Program through PVA. And today we're going to go through the interview preparation course, Expecting the Unexpected. First of all, I think it's really important to do your research on what's going on with the company and the position. Know the position that you're applying for from the job description. It's really important to make that comparison of the new position and your previous experience. What you can do is to be adding things that you may not have had in your resume that really correspond with these different duties that they may be looking for that you do have the experience with. It's also important that if something's straying a little bit from your experience, to see something that you might have done that was very similar, to be able to add in to say that you've got some experience doing that. These ways are just really help you strengthen out what they're seeing and how you're matching up with how they're looking for people for the position and your experience and education level. Also think it's really important to research the employer and or the organization of what they do. This is one of those check boxes I think they have. They want to make sure that you've gone the extra step to check out what they do, if they've got a philosophy, if they've got services that are really important to them, to be able to have a background. You don't have to have a lengthy knowledge of it. A lot of the time, if you just acknowledge that you've done that and you can bring up some points, they're going to be more than happy with that. I think it's just a really point of respect that you're taking the extra time to be able to come into these interviews and really show them that you've done your background on them. Other research pieces are just getting there. You estimate your time, your distance, your parking options for the on-site interview. I know some people even like to make a test drive down there. I'm not necessarily saying you have to do that. For me, I like to do the research of where it is, parking options, estimate some time, so I'm not coming in late and looking worried, and just being prepared to be there at the appropriate early time to have the right attitude and not to be all anxious about the thing. So I think it's really important to do that, and it kind of settles you down that you know that you don't have to worry about that piece. This might seem kind of funny, but I call it the end-all be-all job. You want to make sure that you're showing a proper enthusiasm for the position. It's really funny that these employers can sense the doubt in the interview right away. So you want to make sure that you're coming in with a full explanation that you want to be able to come in and show them that you really want the job. It may not be the job that you're looking for, but you have to be able to come in there and act like you want to get this position and answer your questions that way, because you want to keep your options open. You never know, you may be needing this position if other things fall through. So really watch that piece. Any interview can be a learning experience. So even if it's not the job that you want, use it to be able to strengthen your interviewing pieces. I think it's really important to be able to build on how you go from interview to interview. And again, this keeps your options open. We're going to go into some of the types of interviews and kind of the explanations around them. Really, this has been going on for a few years, but the interviews, really, they call them behavioral interviews. And really what they're looking for is not just your education and your experience level, but how you would react using those experiences and those education with their team, with their product, their services, how you would deal with co-workers, how you would deal with chain of command issues. So they really want to get a sense on how you are going to react with them and how you would fit in with them, because I think it's really an important point for you and for them that you have a feeling that you're able to communicate and get along and make sure that things go well with what position you're doing. Really, the first step of any of the interview process is the telephone screening. A lot of time, if someone's applied for a position, there may be 70 people. We'll just use that as an estimate. The telephone screener, after any kind of word search that a computer might do, is going to take that list down to their 15, and those 15 are the ones that they're going to screen out. Really what they want to do is make sure they got a list of maybe 4 or 5 to send to the actual people that are doing the hiring. These interviews usually go about 15 minutes. They're usually telephonic. They're going to be fairly quick and succinct. So just be prepared for the fast moving on that. They're going to be, again, confirming a lot of your information. Really, the way I look at it too, it's really important to be able to anytime you make a contact with the employer, make sure you're looking at it as an interview. So these are very important. Don't want to take them for granted, and you want to make sure that you're ready for them and the fast pace they go. Now, as far as the interviews themselves, I got it broken down in a couple. It's usually a group interview versus a one-on-one interview. In a one-on-one interview, your chances of making a stronger impression are there. If you make that connection with that interviewer, it's going to be the best thing that you can get. It could be one of the worst things if you don't make the connection. But in those interviews, both the group and the one-on-one are probably using the same questionnaire. But the one-on-one, they tend to go a little more in depth on what the questions are, what they're looking for, how you would respond to him or her as an interviewee. So those can be really the strong ones to get that rapport built. And all the extra pieces can come with the one. Now with the group interview, they tend to be a little quicker moving. If you have a group, they're going to be more rapid firing on these questions. So your answers are going to probably be a little bit shorter, and this is going to go a little faster because they want to cover ground from everyone that's interviewing. Just be prepared to have an understanding of how they're answering your answers, how they're presenting to you. Are they responding in a positive sense? Are there things that you can do to increase the communication level between one of the members? It's really on the fly to figure out who you're talking to and how you think they're responding. There always seems to be one that doesn't respond as much, so you may have to kind of watch out when they're asking the questions to be able to give the time to answer what they want and see if you can provide them extra pieces to be able to show what kind of candidate you are. Here's one of the more important pieces, I think, of the entire interview, and that is to have a database of stories. I think this is the core to it all, and we will be intertwining some of the other pieces into this. I think what you need to do is just have a general framework, a foundation on some of your past stories, your great stories, your great experience, the great successes. You want to put those together and be able to break those down to explain what's going on, because in a lot of cases, these things are going to be what they're looking for, requirements for the qualifications for the position. And just to bring in a database and have 2 or 3 really good stories, I think is really important. I think it's also important that it sets that standard for being able to piece something together if you get a question that's a little bit off base for what you're looking for, to be able to come in and fill in the framework for a question you may not have expected. Some examples: how do you prioritize your work duties? How do you deal with relationships within your team? How did your expertise help you with solving a problem? And how do you deal with difficult clients? And these are the stories you want to use. I mean, these are showing how you're reacting with things. I think it's really important to be able to come in and communicate with a team, even on the lowest, simplest questions to the more complex ones, to see who you need to talk to if you have a concern, or who can come to you, and then know what your chain of command really is, because this is how things are built on a team, and to know their methods and to know your methods and to compare and learn are really important. Again, this is really working to build that framework for how you want to explain your situation. The next one, they may or may not handle it this direct. I think it's important to be able to go through these. Sometimes they will ask you what your strengths and weaknesses are directly, and I think it's really important to be able to express those. Again, this is going to be dropping into your experience level and what you've done in the past. I mean, some of your strengths are, again, going to be what your experience and your education bring, how those trainings deal directly with the position. Leadership, team players, analytics, prioritization. These are all very important skills on being able to show who you are. So my usual process is to pick out four strengths and be able, on the first 3, really to tell the full story on what you are and how you're going to present. The fourth one, I kind of got a little different way of doing it. I usually would like to use that as, and you don't have to call it a weakness, but to identify something that you wanted to change, and something that may have already been changed to the positive. So this is really listing the skill, your plan on improving, and your current status with it, because this is showing your thinking process on how you problem solve. And I think it's a really good example where you can make this the weakness part your strength by just outlining that you know how to identify and how to move on. Don't be surprised with this question. Be ready for it, because you don't want an off the cuff answer that, well, oh, I'm a good worker except for I'm late some of the time. So just be prepared for this, and make sure that you're kind of using your stories, your strengths to help bolster yourself. This next section is kind of funny. Uh, I've gone through interviews, and my answer when they ask you have any other questions. Well, how can I contact you if I do have one? Well, I don't think that's really the greatest answer, and I've done it. But I think there's some questions that I think are really important that you make sure you have answered by the time the interview is done. This is really your time to ask about the position and its responsibilities and what they're looking for. This is a great time because they love to talk about the positions, to be able to have a list of questions to be able to talk. So this could be your follow-up with finding out additional pieces of information and really going and building up that relationship even stronger. I think bottom line, there's some other questions you need to ask or confirm. You want to reconfirm your contact information for both the phone and the emails. If it's one-on-one, you've got that. Make sure it's there. If it's a group, it's okay if you have just one of the group, but make sure that these are phones and emails that are reachable to be able to contact these people directly. I think it's also okay to be asking about timelines, because in most cases when you're in this part of the interview, it could be that the next week they're making a decision. So I think it's okay to ask, when do you think you're going to make a decision on this? And by a follow-up to that, just affirming the ability to call them or contact them on the job hiring status along those timelines. I think those are all fair questions to ask, and that will keep a peace of mind with you that you're not going to be waiting around for what you think might be the perfect job and you hear nothing back. I think these lines of communication are very, very important. I don't think it's over the top if you're contacting them on prearranged timelines. I think it shows extra enthusiasm that you're making the extra pieces to get a hold of them and to stay in contact, to stay on the top of their minds on the hiring. And I've gotten jobs that way before, and I think it works very well. You don't have to bug them every day, but if you've got the timelines and they're giving them, those are great places to follow up. Next section, we're talking about the interview follow-up. I think these are pieces. This is one of those checkbox issues too. You always want to send a thank you email following your interview. Some people might say, well, I'd like to send a written one out. That's fine. That's a little old on the thought, but if you want to do that, that's fine. Those responses may not come in for 3 or 4 days, but if you want to do that, you should also send an email. I usually say send it the same day. I've done it within hours of it, but you want to make sure that it doesn't have to be long, just to let them know that you're very appreciative that you're able to interview. You want to move forward, and to let them know too if there's any additional pieces of information. I think it's really the next piece on continuing the communication on getting a position or finding out how it turned out. It's always good on those to let them know your availability to answer follow-up questions too. I've got some quick tips here. These are kind of just jumping around a little bit, and it's something you can take into place if you'd like. I mean, some are very standard pieces, but number one, what to wear. I would say do not underdress. Even if you know it's a pretty casual office, I'd come in with a business attire that would include possibly khaki pants, button-down shirts, ties, sports coats. You don't want to come in less dressed than they are. Coming in overdressed is better. I mean, you can always adapt it if they hire you to know what their dress code is and what it does and how it changes. But make sure you're coming in with a full standard on that. I had an example where it was a group interview, and my guy came in, like I said, how to dress. The other ones came in sweatshirts and jeans, which I didn't quite understand. When they were broken up into individual interviews, the interviewee or interviewer said that he was very happy and that they that he had respected him with coming in with a serious attitude about this. The next one, I think, is a really important point, and this has happened to me multiple times. Don't get frustrated if it seems as if you're being asked the same question. Usually the interviews go about an hour, and by the first 20 minutes, you've probably given your best answers. You're enthused for it. You're ready. Both barrels are ready to fire, and you're giving your best explanation. Now, about halfway through, maybe a little bit longer, they may ask a question that is almost an identical question in a different way. Don't get frustrated with that. Plan for that. If you need to have extra stories involved, have them. If you need to bolster the one that you have, bring that in, and just expect it, because sometimes you feel a little bit wore out after you've given your stuff, but expect it and come in strong at that point. This next point for number 3, they may or may not ask about salary ranges the first interview or two. Just in case they do, there's some methods to look at. You don't want to undersell yourself. You don't want to oversell yourself. Sometimes on the application processes, you have to give kind of a range, or if it's a federal job, they'll list the range, and you have a fairly good idea. But if they ask you that question, you don't know what their range is. I have a little quick thing that I do, and you don't have to do this. If you feel that it might work for you, go ahead. I call it the quick draw option. If they ask me what the salary range that I'm looking for, I, in a very nice voice, turn it around and ask them the same question. And in most cases, they will give you the range, and you'll be able to keep your information where you're not underselling or overselling. I think it's really important to be able to have some of those issues. It's like a game of poker, keeping your card without playing it. Number 4, this is another one I think is important, because you want to answer any hard questions with a short, succinct answer. A lot of time you may not see one of these questions, or it may be hitting on an area that you don't really have a lot of experience that may hurt you to go into too much explanation. If this situation comes across, you want to make sure your answers are short and succinct. You want to make sure that you started and ended your statements on it. They're either gonna be okay with it and move on, they're not gonna be okay with it and move on, or they're gonna ask for follow-up. You're gonna have to make a judgment on if it's the second one, if they don't think it's good enough to move on, to be able to see if that didn't sound right, that you might want to fill in some follow-up if you need be. Again, you don't want to get trapped with these long explanations that get you to nowhere, where if it's one of your strengths, you want to be able to talk yourself a good game. We already talked about this before, but be aware of your body language too. We were talking about body language or non-verbal communication skills. Just remember how you think they're reacting to how you are. If you're giving the appropriate eye contact, you're not double crossing with the arms or the legs, that you're being able to show that you are attentive in what you're saying. Just be focused on those things. These things can still be done over the phone or on a Zoom call. You just need to listen if it's on the phone, if they're responding in ways that you don't think are quite positive, and to be able to work with those. I know this is a quick framework for the whole process, and I really want it to be a look at the full process, to be able to get it from start to finish, to be able to build your foundation, your story banks, and how you deal with this. And I hope this has helped, and just want to thank you for your time. Again, this is Jim Art from the Veterans Career Program through Paralyzed Veterans of America.
Since 1946, PVA has been the leading advocate for veterans with spinal cord injuries and diseases such as MS and ALS. We help all veterans with disabilities by helping with earned benefits and specialized health care, education and career resources, adaptive sports, housing and legal assistance. Learn more at pva.org.